Welcome to the Empower Her podcast. I'm Deanna, an ex-corporate manager turned certified coach, empowering you to create the life of your dreams. My goal is to guide you and support you in understanding what you really want in life, what steps to take to get there, and learn to actually enjoy the ride. Whether you are climbing the corporate ladder, a stay-at-home parent, or an entrepreneur, I coach you on how to believe you are worthy of a balanced, happy, and energetically positive life in work and at home. My goal in this podcast is to help you recognize patterns, implement change, and use your energy for positivity within yourself and your own life. I believe you don't have to suffer in this lifetime. You can create a life on your terms based on what you want, regardless of what that looks like. It is about reframing your beliefs, letting go of negative thoughts, and looking at your life as a set of opportunities there for you. I'm so excited to get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. It's Halloween week, so happy Halloween almost. My baby cousins, who aren't so babies anymore, they're going to be 8 and 9. They're visiting my mom in Miami this week, and they've never been to the States. And I told my mom, I was like, you need to take them trick-or-treating. Like, they will love it. Get them just some sort of like cheap costume and take them trick-or-treating because it's so fun and it's something they've never experienced. So I told her she needs to make sure that they experience it. So I'm so excited. I don't know if I'm going to be doing anything Halloween-y in Europe. It's obviously not as big as in the States. I did get witchy nails, so they're like a dark purple, brownish, reddish. They look really good. So I'm definitely in the vibes, but not sure if I'm going to do anything Halloween-esque, but we will see. To be determined. So today I want to talk about a more personal topic, and I've shared a few things on Instagram and y'all were really interested in it. So I wanted to do a full podcast episode on it. But in case you didn't know, I got married this month, and I've never shied away from talking about my partner. I've talked about him many, many times, whether I just mention him. I've done a whole podcast episode on how I manifested him. So, I definitely talk about him, but in general, he's just super private. So that's why I don't post him on social media. But whenever we're on our coffee dates or doing whatever, like he's usually there with me, just not in the photos. He absolutely despises photos and posting and social media. So yeah, that was not going to happen. So, I've shared some wedding photos. I try to keep him more private in them, which, some of the photos, which can be more private. But today I want to talk about my wedding and also kind of my thoughts on marriage and how that's changed. And it really relates to sort of my mental health and the view that I have about things and sort of just the changes I've gone through in the last 10 years or so. And it's so significant because I didn't think that I would get married in my 20s. It's not something that I aspired to do. That wasn't something that I felt I wanted to do. But first, let's talk about the wedding. So we got married on October 8th. It was our 3-year anniversary of when we got together. And if you've been here with me, you know that I'm really into numerology, astrology, dates, all the things. And I really wanted it to be on our anniversary so that we wouldn't have to have multiple types of anniversaries. I wanted everything to be on the same anniversary. So our official date we got together was October 8th, 3 years ago. And then our wedding anniversary is going to be October 8th, which is just so crazy. We did not have a traditional engagement and then plan the big wedding. So, in the States, it's very common that you get engaged and then you start planning your big wedding. Like for us, that's not really how it went. In Europe, it is more common nowadays to do a traditional proposal and then plan the wedding, but it's still not I wouldn't say it's not the norm, but it's not like everyone has to do that, or it's not weird if you don't do it that way. With the big ring and the big proposal, kneeling, it's just not as common yet in Europe as it is in the States. I did tell him though, since I grew up in the States, that's what I saw. To me, it was important. I did want a proposal. I wanted that symbol of I'm asking you to spend forever with me. And for me, it was never about a big fancy ring or anything like that. It was more of the thought behind the proposal and making it special. And like we had always talked about, like if we had a proposal, it would be very intimate, just the two of us, like not in front of other people. And that's how it was. So, it was just really perfect for us. But before we had the proposal, he proposed in August. We already knew we were getting married on October 8th. So for us, it wasn't like, oh, well, we wait for the proposal and then we're going to plan the wedding. Like we already knew we were getting married on October 8th. It was already set before the proposal. I just really wanted a proposal as well. And we just had a very small civil ceremony. So we basically went to the courthouse, the version of courthouse here in Hungary, with our two witnesses, because here you have to have witnesses. So it was my best friend and his best friend, and it was just the four of us with our photographer, and we had a civil ceremony. So it was just really, really small. We got legally married, and my husband, which is like so weird to say, I can't even believe that I have a husband. His dream was always to have a beach wedding. So next year, on our anniversary on October, we are going to have a beach wedding with our family, just like a really intimate wedding. We want to have a week where we're all together, sort of like a vacation built into one. We'll have the ceremony on our wedding anniversary so that they can all be there and see it. So it'll be like a wedding anniversary, like a 1 year sort of, I guess kind of renewal of vows, if you will, but it's going to be the first time our family is going to see us, quote unquote, getting married. So we're going to treat it like that. And that's what, we're going to be doing. And we had thought about, different dates to do when we wanted to get married. We thought about Valentine's Day or getting married in February or whatever. Like we were going back and forth. But, as I mentioned, like for me, it's all about the dates. So I really wanted to get married on our anniversary. And since we're moving next year, it's just these how the dates aligned. And I'm so happy. It's actually like such a good in numerology because we were married on 10/8 and then 2024, but 2024 is an 8 year. And I know in like Chinese astrology and numerology, 8's a really good year. It's infinity. It's a really good year to get married. So I just feel like, and if you've listened to my How I Manifested My Partner episode, you know that sort of like our whole relationship, how we met, how we got together was very like, for me, it was very spiritual. It was very destined. So I just feel like with all the numerology and numbers, like it was just meant to be. So it was super exciting. And it's so funny because my parents' wedding anniversary was in October. They're not married anymore. They got divorced when I was like 20. And I dated so many Libra guys and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I ended up being with someone who's not a Libra, totally different. And then I end up getting married in Libra season. Like I literally just can't, but it makes sense because Libra is all about like the relationship aspect, the partnership, the, harmony. So it definitely makes sense in terms of that. So going back to, sort of the proposal is like, again, I didn't really want that like fancy proposal. We ended up from my mom getting one of my grandma's rings and he basically changed, it was yellow gold, the band, and I really wanted a white gold band for my engagement ring. And it was way too big for me, so he got it done, and that was my engagement ring. So it's like very, very sentimental to me because it's my grandma's ring, who I was very, very close with. She unfortunately passed away this year, so I just feel like it's very, again, with that spiritual aspect, like she's with me, and she had been, telling me for 10 years she couldn't wait for me to get married and have kids and all that. So it's just like a little piece of hers with me. So that was really, really special. And then we didn't really, again, have like a fancy wedding. So since we just had a civil ceremony, I ordered a dress, which of course was too small around the boobs because it's always my problem. So I had to get that done, but it turned out beautifully. I got just a bouquet, a very simple bouquet of flowers. We had our two witnesses there. We went so basically where the civil ceremony was, it was in a city outside of Budapest, and it has a really pretty park and like a little castle. And that's where we did photos before. So any of the photos I posted on social media, it was there, it was right by, and it was like this pretty castle area. We did photos for about an hour. And then, as I mentioned, my husband is a very private. He refused to say vows in front of anyone else but me. But I was very adamant about wanting to have vows that we wrote for ourselves, just because I think that that's so special. And like, we love writing cards to each other. So every time it's like Christmas, our birthdays, our anniversary, we always write like cards to each other, and we write like really nice things in there. Like, it's almost like a love letter. And so I told him I really wanted vows, and he said that was fine, but he didn't want to do it in front of everyone. So between photos and when the ceremony started in the park, we just like basically the two of us went off. We sat on a bench outside. It was so nice. The weather was perfect. It was like 65 degrees or like almost 70, but like I wasn't cold because of the adrenaline. And we both like had our vows printed out and we read them to each other. And it was just such a special moment to share our vows with each other and just like be in that moment together. It just felt so intimate. And I just like, we wrote the nicest things about each other. I mean, obviously I can say I wrote nice things about him, but he also wrote such like beautiful things about me. And he was so emotional about what I wrote, and he's not someone that gets emotional. And it was just such a special moment. And I told him afterwards, I was like, this just makes me want to get married even more. If this is how we're speaking about each other and this is what we think of each other, it's just so beautiful. I'm getting like emotional thinking about it. Like, it was just such a beautiful moment that we shared. And then afterwards, we just walked over to basically like their version of the courthouse. And then we had our ceremony. It was super quick. We asked, the person who was doing our ceremony to, we don't need to say a bunch of things. We sent her some information just so she could personalize what she said, but it was really short. We exchanged rings. We did our kiss. We signed a paper, because there it's like a thing. You have to like sit down nicely and sign, the marriage certificate and all of that. So it was like a whole thing, but it was really sweet. And then afterwards we went to dinner, just the four of us, and had an amazing meal, and it was just perfect. And I just felt so much love, and it was just so beautiful. And even if it was like really small and intimate, and we didn't spend a lot of money on it, and we didn't make a big deal, like I did my own hair and makeup, like all the things, it was just like really intimate for us and really special. And we could share it with two people who have actually been in our lives. Like, his best friend has been in his life for 20 years. So has my best friend. So it's like they've known us for so long, and they've seen us like come together. So it was just truly like really, really special. And then after that, we got married on a Tuesday, because of course our anniversary was on a Tuesday. And then on Wednesday after work, we went on a 3-day to a hotel by Lake Balaton. We just had our mini little honeymoon. And then on that Saturday, we had all our friends over and celebrated. So it was like a really nice week of just like celebrating with everybody. And I'm excited for our family ceremony next year on the beach. We're probably going to do it in Florida. I'm super excited. And yeah, it just is like super happy. Everyone keeps asking me like, oh, do you feel differently? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like surprised. I'm like, yes, I feel differently, because to me, getting married was such a big deal. The fact that we legally binded ourselves. Like, I've always been someone that's like, I don't trust any men. I don't, want to give them my trust. I don't want to legally do anything with them. Like, I was very careful all my life, even when I lived with my ex. Like, he didn't have his name on anything. The apartment was mine. Like, all these things, I just really kept my independence. And so for me, this is a really big deal to actually put my life together with someone. Like, it really shows how much I trust him, how much I love him, how much I feel like he's the person that I'm meant to be with. And, I was just so against getting married for so long. I think part of it was my parents got divorced when I was 21, and, they started having issues around like when I was 16 to 18. And it was just, it was a lot. And I feel like I wasn't able to grieve because I'm the oldest child, and I really tried to be there for my mom and be a partner for her. And I didn't end up grieving until much later. And I saw what that did to my family. And even so, like, my parents had relatively speaking, a very amicable divorce, and we still spend holidays together, which is like really weird, but like good at the same time. So even considering like my parents had an amicable divorce, and yet it was still really hard. So I can't even imagine if your parents didn't, but I did see that. And then on the other hand, I have grandparents who, my mom's parents, they were together for almost 60 years and loved each other until both of their last breaths. So I just saw this and I was like, it just felt really unrealistic. I felt like you either have what my grandparents have, which I thought was so rare, or you have what my parents have, where you fall out of love, or it just isn't the same, or, you have kids and then you have to separate and all the drama. Like, I just didn't want that, especially as someone who wants kids. Like, I've always known since I was like a child that I'm supposed to have kids. I've always talked about my one girl that I know I'm going to have. I've known her name since I was little. I've talked to her. I've seen her. I've felt her. Like, I know she's with me, and I've always known I'm meant to have kids, but the relationship part was always like, questionable for me. And I was always going to be willing to have kids without a partner in my life. So it was interesting how I thought about that. And, I also, something else that contributed to this, I had several long-term relationships. I was definitely a relationship girly. When I was 16 to 19, I was in a 3-year relationship. That relationship was definitely different because it's like a teen relationship. He cheated on me and stuff, but like, it didn't really affect me because it was just such like a teen relationship. I don't look back on that and have hate or anything like that. We were so young, like it's just so different. And then when I was 21, I met my ex at the time, who was 10 years older than me. He was 30, turning 31. And we were together for 4 years until I was 25. And I just got to a point where, he was serious. Like, he wanted to be with me forever. And when I broke up with him, he was devastated. But I felt like he wasn't my person, and I felt like we didn't want the same things. And it was really hard because I felt like, is this how love is supposed to feel? Like, you have this partnership, you have someone that's committed to you, but you don't feel in love with them. Like, I didn't feel in love with him anymore. And I was like, is this how it's supposed to feel? Is this normal? Because if this is normal, that's not what I want. Like, that's not what I want. And then I had the complete opposite after that for 2 years on and off, which was someone who I had a very intense emotional, physical, like spiritual attraction to. We were super like, we just had this really intense connection, but his commitment was just slow. And it wasn't like he was seeing other people. He just really liked being alone, and he didn't have the time really or the energy to be in a relationship, or didn't want to be. And so I just had all these experiences in relationships, and I was like, is there anyone that's going to give me everything? And I honestly wasn't sure. And from 27, for a year and a half, I was single and I was loving it. I had the best time. I started going to therapy. I was working on myself. I finally started to grieve my parents' divorce. I understood what I wanted. I talk about this in the episode of how I manifested my husband, but I made a dream man list that I did with my therapist. It's 3 pages long about the type of person that I want and how I want them to treat me, what I want our life to look like. And it was really incredible, that time for me, really just understanding who I am and what it is that I'm looking for, because obviously, my exes weren't great, but I also wasn't my best self. I also didn't show up as my best self or the person I wanted to be, and I wanted to be better than that. So I really used that year and a half after my last relationship to really find myself, understand who I was, and understand what I was really looking for. And when I say looking for, like, I don't mean physically what I was looking for, like really the values. And, when I met my husband at the time, I did not think we were going to be together. Like, we were at a party, we met through a friend, so they could vouch for him. They said he was a great guy, but we made out at 4 a.m. at the party, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just have fun with this guy. He was 2.5 years younger than me. I was like, I'll play around with him. Like, that's fine. I never thought it was going to be anything serious. And not because of anything wrong with him. He just didn't look like who I thought I was going to be with. Like, and again, not physically, just like not the type of person, right? He was younger than me. I always thought I needed someone older because I was always more mature for my age. So I thought I needed someone also that was older. Just, he was more quiet and reserved. Like, he was a totally different personality than what I was used to. And so I didn't see him like that at the beginning. And I was loving being single, and I was very hesitant to get into a relationship with him. He very much was super persistent with me. He had to be, because I was not. I would have let the conversation die. I would have, not seen him again if that was the case. And again, not because anything was wrong with him. I just thought what I wanted looked different. And I'm so happy that he was persistent and he felt the way that he did, because I realized how amazing, kind of a person he is, how good of a person he is, and how he just loves me in a way that I've never been loved before. And the way that he treats me and the way that he views our relationship and our partnership, I've just never felt like that. And he's by no means perfect. I'm not perfect. And we work on ourselves every day together and we try to be better. But what I always tell people when they ask me what the key to a healthy relationship is, a happy, long-term healthy relationship, is mutual respect for each other. Because if you don't have that, then you can't work on all the other things. I actually think communication and things like that you can work on. But if you don't have that mutual respect for each other, it's such a problem. And we respect each other so much. We respect each other as a person. We respect each other's personalities. He is so supportive of me and my career and my work, which I haven't always had before. I'm very career oriented. I'm super motivated in my work, and it's always intimidated men before, and it's not something that he feels, and it's just such a comfort, and I feel so safe around him, something that I've never felt before. And I think another test was we had a lot of tough situations we went through, not because of us, but because of outside factors, losing people close to us and just different situations. And we always came out stronger on the other end. And I just feel so safe with him. And like, this is such a beautiful person that I'm with. And it was just so different this time. And especially as someone who, I've always been a very strong-willed, independent woman. I've always been super open about that I don't need a man, that I don't want to settle down. I can do everything on my own. And I still believe that. I still don't think I need a man, but I love having him next to me. And that's the difference. And I love what we're building together. And I often think, like, do I believe in forever? Or do I think our relationship is going to last forever? I'd love to say yes. I do think I'm an idealist, so someone who thinks realistically but more on the positive side. And, I want to believe that. And we've talked about it, and we've had so many conversations about, what happens if our relationship, kids, money, all the things, because I really wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Like, I was serious about making sure we were on the same page with everything before we got together, even before we got together, and then before we got married, because I wanted to be really sure. And, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but, just like I told him in my vows, I'm going to show up for him. I'm going to show up for our relationship. As long as we always put ourselves first and we're both trying and we're both committing to this and we both love each other, then that's what matters. And honestly, he's the reason my mind changed about marriage. It wasn't that I got older. It wasn't that, whatever. It was he changed my mind. He's someone that I could imagine marrying. There was no one in my life before that I could imagine marrying, and that's the difference. And I think that that's important to note as well, as especially if you want to be in that healthy, stable relationship. It's not about chasing the commitment or the marriage. It's about being with someone who makes you feel amazing and who then makes you feel comfortable with that commitment. And as nervous as I was before, as nervous as the thought of marriage made me, because it really, really did. Like, I've always been in relationships and I've always been faithful, but like, I always felt like I had one foot out the door. Like, I could leave at any time. I had a B plan. I had a C plan. I don't have that. I mean, I'm always making sure that I'm, stable and independent, but I don't have a B plan. Like, this is my plan, and I want to make it with this person because I feel like they're the person that's going to be right for me. And I didn't rush into this decision. I could have gotten married at 25 to my ex who was 10 years older. He, wanted to be with me, but I didn't want to rush into it because I didn't feel like it was right. And now I'm 31. I'm going to be 32 early next year. And this is when I felt comfortable getting married. This is when I felt comfortable making that commitment with someone, because this was the person that I thought I wanted this level of commitment with. Had he come 10 years from now, then I would have waited 10 more years, right? Like, for me, it was always about having that feeling with the person, not just having the commitment. And I really needed to find this person, but also find myself first and really feel deep within myself and my intuition to know if this was the right person or not for me. And I think that's just a lesson for everyone. If you're dating, if you're single, even if you are in a relationship, like, just make sure that you're putting yourself first and you're in a situation that's actually going to make you happy, that actually brings you joy, that actually brings positivity to your life, because that's what's going to matter at the end of the day. That's what's going to help you be the best version of yourself, not the other way around. And it always starts with you. It always starts internally, and it always starts with you finding yourself and understanding who you are, and then finding someone not to complete you, but to add to the already beautiful life that you already have. I hope this was a fun episode. I hope you enjoyed it, a little bit different than, what I normally do, but I know y'all were so interested, so I really wanted to share my thoughts. And if you like these topics, then let me know on Instagram. I would love to hear from you in the DMs. And I might be doing some fun neurodivergent dating content as well, because that's a topic I'm really interested in also. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you all have an amazing week. Have an amazing Halloween if you're celebrating. Hope you dress up in fun costumes. Do it for me since I can't do it. And have an amazing week, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. And if you love this episode, don't forget to follow the podcast and leave a review. And of course, you can follow me at Coach Deanna DeBolt on TikTok and Instagram. I'll catch you next time.